and thank you for joining us today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Therese Butler, and I'm the Senior Vice President of our Homeowners Association. Before we begin today's presentation, if you haven't done so already, I ask that you either put your phone on mute or turn it off. I had to remind myself. Thank you. Secondly, I'd like to remind you that this presentation on our website tomorrow afternoon so that you can review its content and not have to try and copy down any information that you think is relevant and that you want to study. At this time, I'd like to introduce to you the individuals who have donated and devoted so much of their time to this effort. First, the Golf Task Force members, who since April of 2016 have worked tirelessly on the analysis of these courses. They are those that are here today are Susan Richards, Rick Cole, John Michaels, Manny Medeiros, Joyce Howard, Byron Cotter, and Tim Butler. Secondly, the Transition Negotiation Committee, who then took the information that was provided by the Golf Task Force and carried it into golf course negotiations with Saddlebrook Development Company and Saddlebrook Utility Company. And those individuals are Vince Gwizdowski, Mike Collins, Bob Kalinda, Diane Ashby, and myself. Now we'll move on to today's agenda. So what are we going to cover today? First of all, I'm going to tell you what is for sale. Then I'm going to tell you why, or try to describe why we should consider this sale. Then we'll present all of the negotiated terms and conditions. We'll have an overview of the financials, both historical and our projections for the next 5 years. We'll make recommendations. We'll overview the pros and cons of a purchase or non-purchase. We'll present a timeline for moving forward. And then we'll hold a Q&A session. Please, we ask that you hold all questions until this session, because I believe that as the presentation goes forward, we will answer a lot of your questions. For whatever reasons, whether to purchase or not purchase the golf course or golf courses is an emotional decision. As we cover the information in today's presentation, I ask that you try to listen with an open mind to everything that is presented so that you will have all the information you need to make an informed decision. Because remember, it will be your decision as to whether or not we acquire these golf courses. So we'll move on. What exactly is for sale? We have 2 golf courses, the Mountain View and Preserve golf courses. That equals about 363 acres. 2 golf course maintenance facilities. Maintenance equipment, majority of it does need replacing and is budgeted in our 5-year projections. All golf carts. So why would we consider the purchase? There are probably some of you who wonder why we would even consider purchasing the golf courses, and these are some of the reasons why. First of all, to maintain home values. Secondly, to control 73% of the entire green space in our community. That's not 73% of the entire community, but that is 73% of all of our green space. This will maintain overall ambience and lifestyle opportunities. And then to maintain the viability of the golf courses and as an amenity for marketing Saddlebrook 2 as a premier active adult community. A little later in the presentation, I will present information that describes the impacts associated with these factors. But why is this information important? If you recall, in April of 2015, we conducted a survey in preparation of preparing our strategic plan. We had over 2,800 respondents to that survey, greater than a 54% response rate for all of the homes in our community. 54% for a survey is tremendous. You never expect more than 28 or 30%. What it means is that we care. As a community, we care about where we're going and where we're moving as we move forward in life. One of the questions that was asked was with regard to golf courses. A huge percentage, 88% of those that responded to the survey felt that beautiful views, lifestyle, and long-term viability are important to Saddlebrook too. And this was before any of us even realized that it actually equates to 73% of our green space. So now we'll get to the meat, negotiated terms and conditions. The next portion of the presentation will cover the actual terms of the potential acquisition. Keep in mind that the Transition Negotiation Committee was looking at the needs of the entire community during the negotiations in order to provide value to all of us. As I proceed, this will become clearer. However, as we've been waiting for this day to occur, you know that over the last several months, our updates as to where we are have explained that the biggest factor to negotiate with Saddlebrook Development Company was a water agreement. So we'll focus on that issue first. And I just want to explain something. Today you'll hear me talk about Saddlebrook Development Company and Saddlebrook Utilities. I know we all think of them as RCI, Robeson Communities Incorporated, but the actual entities that are associated with golf course ownership and water issues have to do with those two entities. Mr. Robeson has well over a couple hundred corporations, so we're just trying to be a little more distinct as to which ones we're talking about. If I accidentally say RCI, it's an accident. We're all so used to saying it, I'm just not used to saying the others. Okay, so we're going to focus on the water issue first. Water is the second largest expense in running a golf course. The only expense that's greater than water is labor costs. There are two types of water: potable, which is drinking water, and effluent. As I mentioned, potable is drinkable. Effluent is treated wastewater, but it is suitable for golf course irrigation. Saddlebrook Utility Company is the supplier for both types of water. Depending upon where you live in HOA 2, you recognize them as Lago del Oro Water, Saddlebrook Utilities Company, and Ridgeview Utilities Company. Potable is more expensive than effluent at the preserve due to additional regulatory fees it incurs. The area known as the preserve, both the residential homes as well as the golf course, fall into the Central Arizona Groundwater Replenishment District, which we call CAGRD. When Mountain View Golf Course and the rest of the HOA was developed, CAGRD was not in existence, and it does not affect the rest of our community. Historically, it has been extremely difficult to get effluent to the preserve. The thing is, effluent water does not incur CAGRD fees and is vital to the economic stability of the preserve golf course. There is so much information about CAGRD, water credits, water usage, fees, that we have a white paper on our website that goes into more detail to provide an explanation of how this district assumes so much or such a vital role in the costs for water. For those of you that later will be studying financials, what I need to tell you now, though, is that CAGR fees don't appear as part of your water costs. They come to you in the form of your property taxes at the end of the year. Maybe those of you in the preserve who actually are getting your CAGR fee see that already. So moving forward, that is the water issue. So what is the solution? Saddlebrook Development and utility companies have agreed to install and pay for a new pipeline to get all possible effluent to the preserve. It's estimated that this pipeline will cost Saddlebrook Utility Company approximately $700,000 to build. They will then own and maintain the pipeline through the life of the golf course. The pipeline will reduce annual water regulatory fees by approximately $150,000 at present time and even greater amounts in outlying years. If we had not been able to negotiate a solution to the water issue, we would not have been able to move forward with the best interests of the association, and in fact, negotiations would have stopped. This is very important. So now we'll discuss the remaining negotiated terms. As previously mentioned, homeowners will receive both golf courses, 2 golf course maintenance facilities with all their equipment, and all golf carts. Homeowners will also receive deeds to the existing Ridgeview pickleball courts and land adjacent to it to build 6 to 8 additional pickleball courts. We will be guaranteed 100% of all available effluent water before any other golf course gets the water. Ownership of the golf courses will occur concurrently with transition. In other words, we will not take ownership of the golf courses until the date we transition or a day or two after that. In addition, RCI has agreed in writing to not vote their lots for this vote. We realize this is a contentious issue for many of our homeowners, and the Transition Negotiation Committee was able to convince Mr. Robeson to not vote his lots. Negotiated terms continued. So what will it cost us to own these golf courses, pickleball, and pickleball land? Cost to the HOA is $2 million. Due at transfer of title. The $2 million was a baseline, non-negotiable price as far as RCI was concerned. We could not get them to budge off of $2 million. But based on this information, the Transition Negotiation Committee then worked to reduce the impact of the amount by acquiring assets to offset that $2 million figure. So how did we do that? First of all, that RCI pay for this pipeline construction. Just so you know, there is a small pipeline that already goes to the preserve, but it doesn't have the capacity that would be needed to be able to provide all the effluent that we need. Secondly, no relocation of our common areas maintenance yard, which would have cost us $250,000. And for those of you who don't know, what we're talking about is right now, our common areas maintenance crew and all their equipment resides in the Mountain View Golf Course maintenance facility yard. If we had not purchased the golf course, we would have had to vacate that because no third-party owner is going to be willing to co-share with us. What that also would have meant is the area that we are now acquiring or would acquire for the additional pickleball courts is where we actually would have had to have built that. because it's the only viable area. Third bullet, the deeded developed land where the existing pickleball courts and the adjacent area next to it, a value of actually more than $160,000. The existing land and the land adjacent to it belongs to Saddlebrook Development Company. Undeveloped land in our area runs $40,000 an acre, and this is about 4 acres. However, the value is actually more than that because these two areas are actually developed. In other words, they have electricity, sewage, and water. So what's the bottom line? The net acquisition cost to the HOA is actually about $890,000. And not included in that is the fact that we will save at least $150,000 annually in water fees due to the pipeline and garnering the effluent. Below, in the smaller area, are just the calculations. We talk about a $2 million base cost, subtracting $700,000 for a pipeline, acquiring land in the amount of $160,000, and also not building a new common area storage maintenance yard for $250,000. So the result is that we acquire 2 golf courses with a development cost of each at $6 to $8 million a piece for a net price of $890,000. So let's move forward. How do we fund this? First of all, after much analysis, we would borrow $2 million from the reserve fund to fund the purchase. And we repay it over 20 years at $100,000 a year. This ensures that future homeowners pay their share for the courses, not just us today. Further analysis by the Finance Committee shows that there is no negative impact on our reserves for this period if we borrow the $2 million. So now you say, well, why would we borrow from ourselves? Why would we borrow from our reserves? Our CC&Rs, our governing documents, only allow for very conservative investments on our reserves. In 2016, our total returns on more than $6 million was $31,000. I know. The best business loan available for the HOA was actually from Mr. Robeson himself at prime plus 1% for a carry of 5 to 7 years, but with $1 million down at closing. The HOA saves more money by borrowing from themselves interest-free than in obtaining a loan. Okay. The following benefits were not part of negotiation, but are additional benefits that would occur with the purchase of the golf course. And this too gets more into earlier when we said the Transition Negotiation Committee was trying to look out for our entire community. First area was acquiring land for pickleball. The next thing that we would do is we would build a smaller pro shop, no more than 800 square feet, beside the Mesquite patio. It would cost about $150,000 to build, but it'd be funded by our CIF or our community improvement fund. This means that there'd be no out-of-pocket expenses for homeowners to build this pro shop. Our CIF fund and resales are already doing so well that we already have the money in the fund to pay to do this. Secondly, the existing pro shop will become additional meeting space. Then, the existing Mesquite Fitness Center, which was to have been converted to meeting space, will actually be enlarged, and a floating wooden floor will be put in to provide additional dance floor space for all of our dancers, and an area for post-tournament banquets, which would give us additional F&B revenues. food and beverage revenues. The idea behind these moves is twofold. First of all, to make the golf course operations as efficient as possible, and the current trend is to reduce pro shop space. We simply can't compete, pro shops can't compete with, as Damon said, Damon Williams, our general manager, says, we can't compete with Stein Mart, and we can't compete with Vans, and we can't compete with Amazon. So it doesn't make sense to have such a large area with all of that inventory. Second, we're trying to provide a win-win scenario for all of our homeowners by increasing revenues and providing much needed space for socializing. Lastly, realtors will once again be able to include the Mesquite Grill building as a selling point to their clients. Right now, they don't even take people over there. So, it will once again become a lively, vital building with marketing appeal. So now we're going to get into financials. First of all, we'll cover the historical financials. RCI provided to us their annual course profit and loss statements from 2011 through 2016. They also provided salary information, water usage data, and access to evaluate equipment, structures, and carts. The HOA then brought a third-party golf consulting firm on board to help us with the evaluation of the golf courses and the equipment. I'm going to leave this slide up here for just a few minutes, even longer than it would normally take me to go through it. I'm so used to looking at it that I just, fly by. But basically, this is what the numbers showed for the RCI financials during the last 6 years. As you can see from the slide, 2014, 2015, and 16 were not good years for Saddlebrook Development Company. There again, I almost said RCI. Okay, and there are several reasons for this as defined in the footnotes. I'll go through each of these footnotes because I know they're a little small for you. First of all, in 2014, Saddlebrook Development Company had to replace 6 greens and close the preserve golf course for a number of months due to freeze damage that was incurred during the winter time. So expenses went up to rebuild greens and revenues lost due to course closure. Then in 2015, Mountain View Golf Course closed for 5 months to convert all greens to mini verde grass. So once again, a loss of revenue, rounds of golf, additional expenditures spent to actually reseed those greens. Then in 2016, it was a whopper for them. There was numerous expenses to prepare the course for sale. In other words, RCI has been working behind the scene, doing a number of repairs, knowing that they had to at least bring it up to a standard for either us to consider purchasing, or if we choose not to have a third-party buyer. In addition to that, due to inclement weather last year, they needed to overseed the preserve golf course 3 times instead of 1 time. And a conservative estimate for that was $90,000 right off the top. So financial projections. We'll now discuss our financial projections for the next 5 years. First of all, am I moving at an okay pace? Okay, great, thanks. I've been known to get quite excited and just start going too fast. So I just want to make sure I was doing okay for you guys. All right, financial projections. There is a different philosophy between an HOA and a developer owning golf courses. A developer owns and builds golf courses for only one reason: to sell us homes, period. An HOA owns golf courses for several reasons, but is more interested in operating them in a fiscally prudent manner, and the following strategies will cover a way to recover from the downward trend that RCI has faced. So what are those strategies for improving financial projections? First of all, marketing. Secondly, management strategies. Third, operational expense management. And fourth, water savings. The bottom line is that with targeted marketing and efficient operational strategies, the year-to-year financials of owning these golf courses can change dramatically. I'd now like to spend a little bit of time reviewing the first three strategies. I won't go into the fourth because we've already covered how we intend to save on our water and water fees. So marketing elements. The first strategy is marketing. Our general manager, along with members of the Golf Task Force and the Transition Negotiation Committee, spent two solid days with Borders Golf Group to develop a comprehensive sound marketing report, which is also going to be available for you on our website for review. Components of that are creating a welcoming professional environment, something it's not known for today. Developing a focused professional management team. This means a management team that only has to devote themselves to our two golf courses and none of the other golf courses owned by RCI. Improve course conditions by providing new equipment and attention to detail. Keep courses semi-private with residents having priority. The beauty of that is that with owning two golf courses, even if you wanted to do something on one course to bring in additional revenue, such as tournaments, you still always have at least one golf course that can only be used by your residents. And we would market the golf course experience to Saddlebrook residents and only targeted outside individuals and groups. The report, if you choose to look at it, contains numerous options for improving revenues. The options that have been embraced for immediate use are included in the financial portion of that report and provide the framework for the marketing plan. In other words, there were many more ideas for how to improve revenues, but we knew we couldn't do everything at one time, and we looked for those that we thought A, were low-hanging fruit, and B, were achievable in a short-term period. The other beauty of having so many elements in the marketing plan is that if for some reason one of the elements doesn't work, boom, you still have at least a half a dozen more you can work with. And believe me, when you look at the marketing report, what you'll see is that there's no one big, huge thing. There's $15,000 here, there's $20,000 here, there's $45,000 over here. And that's the other beauty of the marketing plan, because you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. Okay, this would be the management team that would be in place. This is the org chart if we so choose to purchase the golf courses. We're so fortunate, and I know many of you don't know this, to have a general manager in Damon Williams that has so much golf course experience. Damon has, or is, 22 years as an active member of the Golf Course Superintendents Association of America. He spent 13 years as a golf course superintendent for golf courses in the Hilton Head area. He spent 3 years as the general manager of a very large HOA that had 3 18-hole golf courses. This is a tremendous asset for the Homeowners Association. It means we have somebody who truly understands and knows the business of golf. The third strategy is expense management. Upon review of the of the Saddlebrook Development Company financials, several areas stood out dramatically that could result in immediate impact to expenses. And what I mean is, when those financials were first brought forward and the analysis was going on by Borders Golf and Damon, who, like I said, knows golf courses, they just kind of said, why would they do this? Why would they do this? And so they immediately saw areas for improvement. We would improve procedures for maintaining the courses. We would create efficiencies by cross-utilization of both common area and golf course stash and equipment. In other words, if something needed to get done on the golf course, and if you only had golf course crew doing it, and it took an extensive period of time, we would now have the viability to be able to take additional crew members and get it done and get it out of the way. Conversely, on the maintenance side, on the common areas side, we would align with both RCI and Borders Golf Group for strength of buying power and group discounts. And both have agreed that if we were to purchase with their buying power, that those rebates incurred would come back to us and not stay with them. We'd modernize the maintenance fleet, to reduce maintenance costs and increase efficiency. This would vastly improve the golf courses. In other words, the equipment we have or they have is so old that an excessive amount of time is kept by mechanics to keep it operational. In addition, it's old and there's much better equipment today that runs much faster and much more efficiently, which means that the number of individuals it would take to actually maintain the golf course would go down. In addition to these elements, by improving the current maintenance schedule when things happen, we could also decrease the amount of time that it takes for staff to work through maintenance, and that would also decrease the numbers of staff needed. So now we'll talk about the operating and capital projections. First of all, the projections are based on the analysis of 6 years of historical data, the known financial trends for our golf courses, the impact of Prop 206, this is the Higherly Hourly Wages Initiative, which already has had an impact on our association, and input from our consultants, our attorneys, and government agencies. And these projections include inflation at 2% per year. The next few slides will show our operations and capital projections and are based on all the information just presented. Before moving forward, though, I'd like to do a quick review to explain the difference between operating expenses and capital expenses. Operating expenses are those monies that we need on a day-to-day basis to maintain a cost center. In this instance, the cost center is our golf courses, or is golf courses. Capital expenses are those monies needed on a non-annual basis to maintain a cost center, such as equipment, golf carts, and irrigation. In our HOA, capital expenses are generally funded through our reserve fund. And every year, a portion of the dues that we pay go into that reserve fund. That's to ensure that at any one year where we would have a tremendously large expense, say we have to replace the roads in 3 units, we wouldn't be looking at $1 million or $1.5 million bill that we'd have to cough up money for in that 1 year. That's why we have reserves. So now we'll talk about projections or estimates only. The baseline scenario that we're going to put forward reflects the best estimate of future financial performance. Significant outcomes that could affect actual financial results include the number of annual memberships sold, changes in the number of employees, and increases and decreases in major expenses such as water, equipment rental, seed, fertilizer, gas, oil. The projections are based on the future, and there will always be factors that will influence their outcome, the same as we make projections for our own home budgets, but things change because we can't predict the future. So here's our baseline scenario for golf course operations. As you can see, we're still looking but bringing down the losses in 2018 and 19 and 20. So how did we get to these projections? We evaluated what the current management practices were and adjusted them to get to a revenue positive model. As you can see from this slide, we believe that based upon a solid marketing plan, operation expense strategies, experienced management, and water savings, these golf courses can turn around. But we aren't going to fool you and tell you they're going to turn around in year one. It's going to take a little bit of time. But by year 4, we believe that we will actually be operating in a revenue positive manner for operations. These numbers are conservative, and they are realistic. So let's talk a little bit about the key assumptions for these projections. Where will these revenues be coming from? The first area is increased revenue from Saddlebrook residents. What does that mean? It means it's time to bring back disgruntled HOA2 golfers. During the last 4 years, 5 years, we have had 60 of our annual members move over to HOA1 to play golf. That's 60 members at $3,200, approximately $3,200 each that play golf at HOA1. And most of them left because they were tired and disappointed with how our golf courses were being run. Secondly, as we mentioned, through the marketing report, we would increase revenue externally, but that would be very targeted. And there are different methods to do that that might actually have us have less rounds of golf by external factors, but different ways to bring the money in order to increase revenues. We'd be looking at greens fees increases. These projections show a 50-cent per round increase each year for the next 5 years. Another big factor is we'd eliminate the amusement tax, which is not due under HOA ownership. In other words, right now, because Saddlebrook Development Company, because Saddlebrook Development Company is a for-profit corporation, they have to pay the amusement tax. In other words, it's not called a sales tax, but basically it's the same thing. So for greens fees, when you purchase your greens, your greens fees, they actually are paying a tax on that to the state. We would not incur that. We would also see a decrease in maintenance costs. As I mentioned, with better efficiencies and less staff, we see a savings there. Conversely, because we would actually start marketing our golf courses, we would be spending some money there. Also have increased labor costs due to Prop 206. Once again, decreasing headcount in the number of individuals, but because of Prop 206, which impact takes about 4 years to get to the full number, we would incur costs there. And increased equipment lease cost. I'm trying to give you a little bit of time to look at those. Once again, I've seen them so much. Okay. That's all, excuse me, it's a continuation. Eliminate amusement tax not due under HOA ownership. So that's all one bullet. Okay, so now we'll talk about the combined capital items that will be replaced, or we believe need to be replaced during the next 25 years. First of all, in-ground irrigation, maintenance equipment, irrigation pumps and controllers, greens replacement, golf carts, bunkers replacement, chemical storage and fuel tanks, and maintenance building upgrades. And the total estimated capital needs over 25 years is about $12 million in current dollars. So how do you fund future capital items? Similar to our reserve fund for the rest of the homeowners association, we will need to reserve funds for the golf courses. The Golf Task Force recommends funding reserves at $400,000 per year for the first 10 years, $560,000 in the first year to cover those immediate capital requirements. In other words, that money right up front to bring in efficient equipment to do the job better. This provides enough money for our big project years without seeking additional funding in any one year. It has been modeled out to 25 years, which means some of the items that we covered in the last slide will actually be replaced more than once. So that's why some of those numbers were higher, because you're actually looking at some of them replaced more than once, and some may not need to be replaced at all. So what's the financial impact on homeowners? This one you've been waiting for, I know. Here we go. So, considering the golf course financial projections and the HOA draft 5-year financial plan, the financial impact to homeowners is expected to be, in 2018, a one-time only assessment of $185 per household to cover the capital requirements. In other words, we need that infusion up front. This covers our startup costs. The impact on your annual dues. Golf, like any other amenity, will now be included in the HOA operations. We anticipate that a 2% annual dues increase for the next 5 years to cover everything, including golf. So let's talk about this a little bit. Though our 5-year plan is still in draft, we are projecting that an annual dues increase of 2.8% will cover the operational and reserve requirements for the HOA and keep us in good financial standing. However, if you're like me and math is not your forte, what does that mean? It means at most a $60 dues increase per year for 5 years. What does that mean? It means that 5 years from now, your dues would be $300 more a year than they would be today. Once again, I want to explain how conservative we are. As this draft 5-year plan is being developed by the financial committee as well as our controller and general manager, not even included in this is our community improvement fund. As you know, each year the board has the opportunity at the beginning of the year to say how much of all those monies that are coming in from the capital improvement fund would go to the actual fund for new capital items and how much could go into reserves. This doesn't even take into account that part of our dues would be offset by money going in from the capital improvement fund. So in other words, we believe today that this is the worst case scenario. So once again, a one-time $185 special assessment in 2018 and $60 a year in dues increases beginning in 2018 for the next 5 years. So what is our recommendation and rationale? The Golf Task Force and the Transition Negotiating Committee recommend to purchase the golf courses. We recommend it for several reasons. One, to protect our home values. 2, to preserve the community and our green space. 3, to eliminate risks associated with third-party ownership of the golf courses. And 4, to maintain control over an important amenity. You'll notice that the first bullet is to protect home values. We're now going to take you through a series of slides which will show you how golf ownership does that. First of all, what's the consequences of a non-purchase? It would be a significant disadvantage to sell real estate without the assurance that the golf courses would always be maintained and available as golf courses. Secondly, third-party ownership, because RCI has said if you don't purchase these golf courses, we are going to put them on the market to somebody else. So third-party ownership could result in blighted landscape, decreased home values, third-party demand for financial support from the HOA, litigation, and dissension. So along with the other documents we're going to be posting on the website, we will have links to various articles as well as scanned articles in there that will show examples of some of these potential issues. So in other words, there is data, there is information to back this up. Right now, we'd like to show you some examples in nearby Arizona areas where these factors have become a reality. Ahwatukee Lakes is located in Phoenix and is an HOA with about 5,200 homes. Their course closed in 2013 by their developer. The golf course is currently in litigation to change the covenants to allow for development, and it has been making its way through the appeals process, through the courts process, and could eventually end up in the Arizona Supreme Court. And the following shows how the course looks 4 years after it was closed. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. So now I'll show you how it looks 4 years later. So this is Ahwatukee Lake's green space today. Yep, that's that pond that doesn't have a fountain working anymore. So Kanoa Hills is in Green Valley, which is just south of us, and is an example of an HOA being held hostage by a third party. Their course closed July 2013 due to lack of maintenance from the third party owner. The third party offered to sell the golf course to the HOA, and the HOA declined. He turned off the water and walked away. This is Kanoa Hills, one of their courses today. These two situations show what could happen to 73% of our green space. This is what overgrowth does to communities. So what does the impact of these types of situations have on a golf course community? What I'm going to show you are a realistic and true situation of what happens if golf courses are abandoned or neglected. First of all, reports from the residents in Ahwatukee Lakes indicate that homes decline 20% if you lived on the golf course and 10% off the golf course. Excuse me, that's home values declined. A 2015 study by the University of Nevada suggests that when a course closes, owners on the golf course lose $26 to $32 per square foot. On a 2,000 square foot home, that means your property value loss is anywhere from $52,000 to $64,000. Studies show that a golf course adds about 10% to the value of an off-course home, even more to a home on a golf course. An average off-course Saddlebrook home is 2,300 square feet and sells for about $300,000. This would represent a $30,000 loss in your property values. So what's the return on investment? As I already mentioned, our one-time assessment, and at the end of 5 years, at the worst, we're thinking your dues would be $300 more than they are this year. However, it would take 100 years at $300 annually to equal the potential $30,000 loss that could result from the golf course's closing. Golf course closures have created declining home values in similar communities. Whether the loss in Saddlebrook would be greater or less than those we've discussed is an unknown. Purchase versus non-purchase. First of all, we'll talk about what happens if we purchase. First and foremost is we're trying to protect homeowner value. Our lifestyle, 73% of our green space. Once again, 88% of those who responded to our survey said this was very important. Golf courses are an important amenity of the Saddlebrook experience. What we've done is we've scanned an article that was in the Arizona Daily Star about 3 weeks ago. It was part of a supplement that had to do with how do you choose where you're going to buy your home, especially in HOA. Basically, they were talking about HOAs. And they were talking about the more amenities that an HOA has, the greater its appeal. Because if one of you golfs, but one of you plays pickleball, isn't it nice that you have an HOA where both can do that? And Saddlebrook was specifically named in that article as a very nice place to be living with multiple amenities. So I urge you, like I said, we have that article on our website, or will by tomorrow. In addition, we would gain additional pickleball courts. We could also see cross-utilization of our golf course lands. For example, many of you know that HOA 1 has their golf courses open in non-playing hours for walking. Right now, Saddlebrook RCI, because it is RCI, doesn't allow us to utilize those golf courses for anything other than golf. So it would benefit groups other than golfers. We'd be able to market more readily golf course and banquets and increase our F&B revenues. Once again, we'd have more dance floor space due to smaller pro shop. Like I said, we were trying to look out for everybody with this one. We'd be controlling our destiny. And you would have a golf course one-time assessment of $185. So what happens with a non-purchase? Potential loss of property values of at least 10 to 20%. Third-party control of 73% of our green space. An immediate $250,000 outlay for a common areas maintenance yard. No additional pickleball courts, because that's where the maintenance yard would have to go, as it's the only viable option. Decreased marketability of our community. What we mean by that is, as I mentioned earlier, if you don't know who's going to own the courses, if you don't know how well they're going to be maintained, you can't market as well. Our biggest competitor right now for market or for home sales is Saddlebrook Ranch. And for the next 15 to 20 years, I can guarantee that there's no question as to who owns those golf courses and whether they'll be taken care of or not. Sorry, I forgot to press the button. So, once again, potential ransom by third-party owner. Another series of articles that are scanned and on the website deal with Skyline Ranch, which is right here in Tucson, and what their third-party owner did to basically tell the HOA they either needed to start paying some money to him to keep the golf courses green or not. And you can read those articles also. In addition, even if you don't have that type of ransom going on, a third-party owner might not be as interested in making sure that our courses stay semi-private and that we assure that our golfers, our homeowners, are getting the best tee times and always having a course available. RCI or a third party, or RCI would maintain control until they sell it, and whether it's RCI or third party, there would be no cross-utilization of those golf courses. So what happens now? First of all, this presentation and live streaming of this presentation, two different things. This presentation, as I presented it today, but not in the live streaming format, will be available on the website where you'll be able to go back and look at it. I will be doing a voiceover on it, but you can quickly move through the slides that you don't want to. There will also be always at least one of these available for live streaming, one of the live presentations. And there will also be numerous documents relating to golf courses available by tomorrow at 1 p.m. Those will include the golf course evaluations, our third-party golf course evaluations of both courses, the marketing report that I spoke about earlier, the 5-year projection financials, the white paper on the water issue, the letter of intent. The letter of intent, as we described on the website, is basically the foundation for the purchase agreement as we move forward. And that will outlay just basically what we've spoken about today. In addition, if we don't get your questions answered today, or after you have a time to look at all these documents, you have more questions, simply email to gtf@saddlebrook2.com. Your question will then be forwarded to the appropriate subject matter expert, and they will get back to you as soon as they can with an answer. In addition, for the frequently asked questions, we'll be putting together a new FAQ document that will also be on the website as we see the same questions being asked over and over again, and that'll be available for your review. We're also available to answer questions at group settings. So if you have a unit meeting, or even if you don't normally, but you request your unit rep to put together a unit meeting specifically about this, or if you have a club and you would like more information as to the value this has for you, requests go to that same email address, and members of the Golf Task Force and then Transition Negotiation Committee would love to be able to come and talk to you. If, after all that, you still have other questions that you would like to get answered and provide feedback, on Monday, June 26th at 1 p.m. and Tuesday, June 27th at 9 a.m., we will have 2 more town halls. We won't do this presentation again. It will be specifically to answer Q&As. Or if we start to hear some types of rumors, of course, that really never happens in this community. But if we need to quell a few of those, we'll take that opportunity at the town hall also to do that. I anticipate tickets to be available for the next 2 town halls early next week. I don't have a firm date yet, so once again, we'll do an email blast and put it in the Monday message when you can come up and get tickets for those. I don't anticipate, or we didn't anticipate, that we would actually need 4 sessions. However, if those 2 sessions go like hotcakes, then we'll add more than 2 sessions. So now let's move on to the voting process. First of all, there will be 1 vote per household of members in good standing. Secondly, the ballots will be mailed tomorrow on June 16th. The voting packet will include the letter of intent. It will include ballot voting instructions, and it will include the ballot and the return envelope where you'll need to sign it and put your unit and lot number, similar to what we already do today. If, however, you are traveling and you are unable to receive your ballot by mail, you will be able to, beginning on June 19th, to download it from our website, or you can email Diane and she will send it to you. I ask you to do this only if you absolutely can't get your ballot through the mail. And the reason being is that when you go to the website to get it, it isn't going to have that return envelope. And that return envelope specifically has reminders for you to put on your unit and lot number and your signature to do that yourself. And if you don't have a unit and lot and you don't have a signature on your return envelope, we can't count your vote. So please only use this option if it's the only option left for you. So ballots may be deposited in the voting box in the Mountain View Clubhouse entryway until 4 p.m. on July 21st. That's July 21st. We're trying to give as much time as possible. If you don't put it in the ballot box, then it needs to be mailed, or excuse me, postmarked by July 21st, and we need to receive it by July 28th. Ballots will be counted and results announced on Monday, July 31st. The decision will be based on 50% plus one of the votes received. And remember, Mr. Robeson will not be voting his lots. I'd just like to mention that this is our only vote on the golf courses. If the majority is a no vote, there will not be a second round of negotiations. It will be put for sale to a third party. In conclusion, in April 2016, your fellow residents in the Golf Task Force undertook a monumental effort to research, analyze, and debate the financial impact of owning the preserve and Mountain View golf courses. Then in December of 2016, you elected the Transition Negotiation Committee to carry the HOA interest into negotiations with RCI. The result of the tireless combined efforts of both of these groups is the letter of intent, which outlines the key terms and conditions for the sale of the golf courses. The golf courses are an integral part of our lifestyle, whether you enjoy golf or simply enjoy the views that those 363 acres of open space give you. The Golf Task Force and the Transition Negotiating Committee are fully supportive of the acquisition of these golf courses. Let's stay in control of our destiny and vote for the purchase of the courses. Thank you so much. Uh-oh, too far. Okay, so we're going into the Q&A process right now. There are microphones available at each area. This is similar to how we're doing at board meetings. There's one question per each time a person is at the mic. Once you've asked your question and gotten your answer, you can go to the back of the line and ask another one. Before you ask your question, please state your name and your unit and lot number. And once again, there is a time limit of 2 minutes per question. With me on the stage now are our subject matter experts. These individuals are now going to introduce themselves and give you a little of their background so that you can understand the role that they played in the analysis and projections. You can take that out of the...
My name is Bob Kalinda. I'm one of the negotiators on the Transition Negotiating Committee. And thanks to the guy next to me to my left, I know more about water than I ever chose to know about water and all of the water issues that are involved in golf course ownership.
Hi, I'm Rick Cole. I'm on the Golf Course Task Committee. I've been involved in both water and some of the financial aspects.
Hi, I'm John Michaels. I was also still am chair of the Green Committee, and so I've been very involved in the operations of the golf courses for several years.
Hi, I'm Susan Richards. I worked on the communications team and specialized in home values.
I'm Manny Medeiros from Unit 36. I'm part of the Gulf Task Force and deal in operations. I've been a member of the Green Committee since 2007. In my prior life, I was also a negotiator with Pacific Gas and Electric Company.
I'm Tim Butler. I'm on the Gulf Task Force in the operations subgroup of the Gulf Task Force. I was on the Green Committee for a couple of years and have a background in agriculture, so I know a little bit about grass. Mowing it, yeah.
I'm Diane Ashby. I'm on the Transition Negotiation Committee. I bring a background in planning and administration to the group and have looked particularly at home values.
I'm Byron Cotter. I am not a golfer, so I'm one of the non-golfers on the team. I am on the finance analysis part of the Gulf Task Force. My background, a little different than what might be appropriate for that. I have a PhD in chemistry, but I also have an MBA degree, so I have a good grasp of finance. I fudged budgets for over 30 years. So, I know how to look at numbers on things. So.
Hi, I'm Vince Gwizdowski. I'm currently on the HOA2 board as a VP and the treasurer. I had about 3.5 years of experience on the finance committee and also part of a member of the strategic task force prior to joining this. Got an extensive background in strategic planning and domestic and international mergers and acquisitions. And I'm a militarily trained and Northrop Grumman trained acquisition specialist for contract negotiations.
Hi, I'm Joyce Howard. I'm on the Gulf Task Force on the Finance Subcommittee, and my background is in finance. I am a CPA and worked in financial planning and financial reporting.
I'm Mike Collins. I'm on the Transition Negotiating Committee. I have a background in finance also. I have an MBA, over 20 years experience as controller and treasurer. And I've been on the finance committee here in the community for over 6 years.
Thank you all. We felt it was important that you understood the backgrounds of these individuals so that you realize that the brain power is there, has been there for the last year, more than a year. And in addition, in the audience, we have Damon Williams, our general manager, and if there are specific questions that are relevant to him, I'll direct the questions there. Otherwise, I'll just be directing to the areas of individuals who actually have the expertise. So because I'm right-handed, and this is my right side, we'll take the question here first, and then we'll go over there.
Hi, I'm Jim Fabio from Unit 25. First of all, thanks for the presentation. Very, very well done, and all your time and effort and everything else. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was what you're seeing today as the final was probably the 27th iteration.
You should put into your future presentations. One of those is that when you show the profit and loss from RCI on the golf courses, several of those years, the major factor was weather conditions and the freezing temperatures and so forth for the overseeding 3 or 4 times. And whether you included that in your projections for your estimates for financial results for the future years. You can answer that today, or just make sure you answer it somewhere in your future projection or presentations. Another one was that when you talked about the $700,000 they're paying for the pipeline, are they going to recover the cost of that pipeline by increasing the rates of that effluent water in the future? And then thirdly, you should talk about, if this goes through and passes, what is your timetable possibilities for transition?
Okay, there's actually 3 things there. I think we can actually address some of those for you. I'd like to start with the finance side. It's probably, or I don't know, whichever one of you who did so much of the building of the budget with regard to how weather projections do or don't play into your financials.
Yes, as I understand the question is, did we take into account some of the negative things that could happen. And yes, I think that we did do that. We took a very hard look at the detailed data that RCI had provided to us, and we based our projections on that with input from our consultants and from our experts in the area. And we also, as you may have noticed, that what we presented up there was a baseline scenario. We did run other scenarios, upsides and downsides, which would take into account such things as the weather effects and overseeding. And so we feel very confident that this is a good conservative projections.
Answer the water next.
Yeah, water.
As far as the water rates are concerned, the water companies would have to go to or before the ACC, the Arizona Corporation Committee, to ask for a rate increase. Part of that process allows for the customers, us, to also provide our input into their request. So it's not up to RCI willy-nilly to raise rates. It has to have ACC approval.
Therese, why don't you take the part about the timetable with the transition and this moving along simultaneously?
Okay, so what we're projecting right now is that based upon the results of this vote, July 31st, that actually is what we need to know in order to move forward with transition negotiations. We are projecting right now, because whether we purchase or not changes, like I said, some of the impacts. The land we need for, the land that would no longer be available for pickleball courts versus our community, our common areas yard. And if we are going to purchase the golf courses, what will be happening simultaneously is, first of all, the actual purchase agreement will be drafted. That could be 40 pages or so. It's legalese. It will be, taken care of by their chief counsel as well as our water attorney and our HOA attorney. But basically, it's following the outline of the letter of intent. That will happen, and then concurrently, we'll start to try and finish up the transition negotiations. Actually, I've been on the board a long time. This was far more difficult than transition negotiations committee are going to go, simply because we're such a mature community. We need 90 days before we can transition from whatever that date is, simply because we need 90 days to be able to go back out, get a bid for health benefits, and then actually have that process take place. We are hoping, looking, kind of trying to put the stake in the ground for no later than January 1. It would be a clean break. Oh, one other thing. With regard to those water rate increases that you were referring to, and we found this out from our water attorney as well as Rick when speaking with his new best friends at KGARD, that he's got a direct line to him now, but that basically, yes, they could include that $700,000 for the pipeline as part of what they could use to go for rates. But $700,000 is not a lot of money considering the whole development it takes for them to do sewer and water. And that's what she told Rick also. It's because when the ACC gets it, they allow a utility company like this to have some profit. They have to. But they don't allow excessive profit on the backs of people that are their customers. Okay, now I'm over here. Pardon? Yeah, we can also always appeal too.
Thank you. My name is Ray Nichols, Unit 15, and I think I'm in Lot 141. Anyway, first of all, I'd like to thank the committee for their due diligence and their thorough and complete, very difficult work. Thank you very much for all you've done for the community. I have one, I think, fairly simple question. What, if any, are the impacts on the RV storage units with the changes that you're talking about, in particular with respect to the pickleball courts, I would guess?
There's no impact at all. It's not RV land. Sir?
Thank you again. Great presentation. I'm Bob Thyssen, Unit 36, Lot 52, where I have a spectacular southeast view over the third hole of the golf course, along with natural area and almost no homes in my view, except way off to the left. Anyway, thank you again. My question relates to annual fees. Now, missing from this presentation would be a valuable comparison of annual fees in comparison to other comparable HOAs. I know that I have a lot of friends in HOA 1, and their fees are higher. They've paid more special assessment fees than we have, et cetera. And so I'm pleased with the level of fees that are currently being imposed, the annual fees, and an acceptable increased annual rate. So under those scenarios, do we have comparisons that would be useful in future presentations or on the website? And as part of that, have we taken in just a few new home sales by Robeson in the future, not an excessive number? Thank you.
Yes, we do have some of that information. I think Vince is going to address it. Or no, Mike is. Okay.
I have the information on HOA 1, and I think Joyce could probably address or Byron on the assumption on homeowner sales. Or I can do that, whatever. In HOA 1, their past, as the gentleman correctly stated, is they have higher dues and higher assessments. So their current dues right now are about $2,400. I think the actual number is $2,383. So that's the level they're at now. That's the level that we will be at after 5 years. The second thing is he's correct in saying they've had several assessments. In 1991, they had a $4,000 assessment that was supposedly to cover miscellaneous expenditures and that type of thing. In 2005, they had a $1,000 assessment for their clubhouse. And over the last 10 years, they've had an additional $2.3 million in special assessments for various reasons in the neighborhood of $150 to $300. So that's their history.
1980.
We're at 1980 right now.
$300 for the Mountain View Clubhouse. Yeah. I was a member of the strategic planning committee that was referred to in one of the slides that did the survey, but among the other things that we did in putting together the strategic plan was to take a look at or benchmark against comparable HOAs, as comparable as we could get in the Southwest, California, and a couple in Florida. And we ended up throwing out the Florida ones because they were so different. It was hard to find ones of exactly our size or exactly our conditions, but as best we could look at, among the other things we looked at was what the HOA fees are. I could give you that information later if you want it, but the bottom line is we're very, very comparable. And the other thing we looked at is we have more amenities than just about any of the other southwestern area HOAs, especially when you move to Texas and California. And so the cost per home was also right in line with anybody that is as close to us as we could find.
One other thing I'd like to mention, as Mike discussed, there were in HOA 1 numerous special assessments that they had. And just to give a little background, when HOA 1 transitioned from the developer, they basically demanded that they wanted to transition. And at the time that they transitioned, it was early for a transition. They had not built reserves. They didn't have reserves. So you can see why they needed to do special assessments as time went by. Conversely, we have been reserving for years, and we don't have those kinds of issues. And so we don't project special assessments in the neighborhood of what they have. Okay, sir. Oh, wait, am I on the wrong side? There.
My name is Ray Rosenbauer, Unit 31. I'd like to thank Paula Michaels for allowing John to continue on in his capacity, even though she said she wouldn't. For years, I've heard that at the preserve, the main water holding facility, the lake on 18, had a problem. If this is a fact and it does have a problem, has that been brought up to RCI, and will they fix it, or will the cost, if there is a problem, be burdened on us? And the second one is, if are the projections for the additional personnel and equipment needed to maintain the common areas that are currently done by RCI with regards to the golf course property? Has that all been projected into the cost factors that were shown earlier?
Okay, so I'll address the first question, which was, what was it again? I forget.
The lake
What?
on
Oh, the liner, yes,
preserve.
okay, thank you. I meant to write it down and then I got listening to you. Okay. In your letter of intent that you'll receive, and that'll be on the website, there is, I believe, it's section 9 or section 10, section 9, which deals with the pond liner issue. Yes, we believe there is a pond liner issue. We've recently had it inspected, and as part of the purchase agreement, it will delineate how we believe who should pay for what or how much should be paid. So it is being addressed. And with your second question,
personnel, in the consultant that we had, which is Border Golf, they recommended a staffing model that clearly was advantageous to us for the future. So we incorporated that model into the projections.
okay, sir.
Two questions. Bodie Chandler, Unit 42. First off, is there a guarantee and a timeline for the building of this affluent line, and where will it go? Secondly, when you determined there were 60 annuals that left HOA 2 for HOA 1, did you ever figure out how many play cards we lost, the 50 or the 25? Was it ever part of your consideration?
Okay, I can answer the first question with regard to guarantee of the timeline. That's also in the letter of intent. It gives RCI up to 6 months because they say it will take 6 months to build the pipeline. If they don't, and what will happen is if that pipeline hasn't been completed within 6 months of our closing date on the golf course, they will incur penalties.
Do we know where it's going? Or does it already exist and they're just refurbishing it?
No, they're not refurbishing. I don't know. I really don't know whether it's going to follow the same path or not.
They did not offer us the engineering plans. They just gave us an estimated cost, Bodie. So we don't know exactly where they're going to lay the line, but we will find out during the next coming months.
Yeah, Bodie, it's not a refurbish. There's already an existing line, and there's a pump station down behind the 5th hole in the desert that is just pump up to that lake, but the line is too small, and I don't know if they're going to go from that pumping station in another direction up to well 20, up off of whatever that road is. What is that ring road up there? So anyway, we don't know exactly which way it'll go. Also, besides getting water up there, it's going to let our irrigation system last much longer because we get water hammer now, the way they have to shut off valves and then close valves and open valves, and it's caused some breaks in the main line. And by doing this new pump station and line, it'll save on that.
The other thing that Bob mentioned was
The play cards. So
oh, no, before play cards, we were still talking about, oh, yes, the course doesn't close while they put in this line. They've already told us that.
I didn't ask that, but thank you.
Okay, and with
Okay.
regard to play cards, that's down there.
Yes, the other question was, did we analyze the play cards lost to HOA 1? And we did not. We don't have any visibility into that. So if anything, I would say that there's a little upside in our projections if we get some of those play card holders back.
Good, thank you.
Okay, Ma'am.
Kay Galligan from HOA1, and I have a question. Part of it was answered already. Are you considering walkers on your golf course? And that was answered. You are considering letting, how about the dog walkers that are now on our courses when we have, openings where they can walk certain hours with their dogs? Are you going to let dogs walk on your golf course?
I don't know. I truly don't know.
We would like you to consider that. I think it would ease problems on both places. That your people would not have to come over.
Okay.
And
Yeah, okay, we'll take that.
and
under
it would be
consideration.
a definite advantage for non-golfers to be able to walk their dogs on your course with the certain kind of rules that we have too.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll put that under consideration. Thank you.
That's an important question. I guess, Carolyn Myers, I've got a house in the preserve. I might have missed something here, but I didn't see in your projections that you're going to, if we purchase all this property, how much more of the taxes that the Pinellas County is going to charge the HOA? I presume they're going to charge you taxes of ownership of this property, correct?
Let me see, I've had more than enough discussions with tax lawyers and CPAs here in the last 2 weeks about that very issue. I'll try and boil it down. Because we are an HOA in Arizona, we are tax exempt for certain things. But from a federal tax standpoint, in non-related business activity, we would have to pay taxes just like a corporation. So if I take a look at the golf course, if we have 5% of our annuals coming in from outside, we would have to charge them sales tax and give it back to the state of Arizona. And if we make a huge profit, we would obviously be taxed by the federal government. We are not concerned with that.
Yeah.
And here's the real reason why. Because all the money that we've made, and we have done an excellent job of managing the HOA over the years. Like last year, we had about, well, this year we're projecting about 1.1 million. Of that net income, that could be potentially taxable, but in fact, by federal regulation and IRS ruling, according to our tax attorney and 2 CPAs, if we move it into whatever amount we move into reserves, will not be taxable. So we're in good shape.
I have a
That
second.
means property tax, no.
I have a second question. Having been a director on a board one time, and I looked up when I noticed that there are certain people that are not interested in purchase. So when people don't pay their assessment, what's your plans towards that?
It's, we already have, with regard to delinquent accounts, we already have a process associated with that. It includes well, there's several of them. One of them is, it includes a percent if it's not paid by a certain period of time on interest. We generally put a lien on the property. And if the amount starts to get excessive, like not just 185, well, like on dues, we use Carpenter Hazelwood as our collections attorneys. And use a process there. Also, the other thing we can do, and as we continue to move forward with North Star and get to the day when we're actually using the scan in other areas, we have the ability, when people are delinquent, to turn off their access to certain areas. So as we get to the point, well, we're already here at this Desert View in the fitness center, but when we get to the pools and everything else, their card is not going to work when they try and enter.
And we really nail them by not allowing them to vote if they're not in good standing.
Yes, that's the other one. Yes.
Sam Leeper, Unit 42, Lot 133. This is relative to water, particularly the potable water. What is the source of the potable water that we're contracting to acquire? And is it a contract to perpetuity? Or is it, if it's well water, are they adjudicated wells? And are we going to be co-owning those in any way with another party?
We have two types of water from two sources. Ridgeway Water Company provides all the well water, drinking water, potable water. And Saddlebrook Utility Company will be providing the effluent. Because Ridgeway is a public utility, they are under direction to provide potable water to the development, which includes the golf course. We don't have any long-term agreements with them because they're a public utility and have to provide us with the water. The affluent water, there will be a long-term agreement that is spelled out in the letter of intent about them giving us basically all of their daily production, first right of refusal on their daily production on the affluent to bring to the golf course. Does that answer your question?
I think so. As it relates to the wells, are these wells, I'm from Colorado, where we deal with lots of wells and the adjudication of the use of those wells. Are the wells that we will be depending on to receive that water, are they controlled by, as you say, the public commission?
Well, there's quite a few water regulatory branches here. For a development to be allowed to go forward, you have the Arizona.
Here you go.
The Arizona Department of Water Resources would issue a permit for a development to go forward. So when RCI developed the preserve, which is units 42 through 45 plus a preserve golf course, they had to go to the Arizona Department of Water Resources and prove to them that they had 100 years of water. And the original permit is actually comes through the Central Arizona Groundwater Replenishment District. They do the work on that. And then the Arizona Central Water Replenishment District is responsible for making sure that there's always 100 years of water. So no permits can be issued for a new development anywhere until they approve. And then if we use more water than is being replaced in the ground, they're under charge to go out and purchase water to put back into the ground, and then they charge it through their fee process.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Bob Fleisenbeck again. As part of my first question on annual fees, was there a very conservative estimate of future Robeson new home sales of the remaining lots that are there? So i.e., is it just that 2 homes per month projection like I think there's probably been currently, or is it accelerated over that?
We're looking at over a 5-year period, an average of 25 homes per year for new homes.
Yes, it's not a radical change at all. Yes.
Now that you've mentioned that, the preserve, anybody who goes up there knows how Robeson builds. He builds for beauty, but not efficiency in the long term. Like all of the facilities up at the preserve are not big enough for all the homes that he has planned. So that was part of what I used to own an HOA 1. That's part of the reason we got assessed to fix a few of his inadequacies when he built. And I'm wondering what they think is going to happen to that. All of the facilities like that little tiny gym and bathroom area and that is not going to be enough for all the homes he's going to build. That's HOA 2. So what's the projection there?
That is not part of the golf course.
No, but we were talking about the projected what it's going to cost, the increase in our dues and the assessments that HOA went through to repair some of the things that he didn't take care of. And so that's what I'm bringing up, a point that when you talk about what's going to cost in the homeowners dues in the future, those are the things that should be considered a little bit.
Actually,
let me try.
Yeah.
When we took a look at the strategic planning aspects, a couple of years ago, there was an acknowledgement that there's a need for more facilities. We're dealing with golf course right now, and that's where we are. There are 5 of us here who will be negotiating transition once the golf course decision is made. The need for facilities is an open question that will be part of transition negotiations. So today, without those negotiations happening, there's no way to definitively answer your question.
And what I will add, though, too, is one of the reasons we have our community improvement fund, and that was approved last year, was, like I said, the monies go twofold. Monies can be used to fund our reserves, but money can also be used for capital improvements. For example, this new smaller pro shop, it's not going to incur any additional monies because it's in the capital improvement fund already. Hope that helps. Sir?
Seth Eisner, Unit 30. The question is about water. Do we actually have any kind of guarantee of a 100-year water supply, or do what we have really membership in the CAGRD that we pay some money to, and somewhere within a 100-mile radius of us, some Arizona government agency will be replenishing water, which may or may not be accessible to Saddlebrook?
Well, it's the job of the Central Arizona District Water to make sure that the active management area we are in, which is the Tucson management area, there are, I believe, 3 in Arizona, that everyone has water for 100 years. And so you cannot, and the aquifers run from up near Casa Grande down through here. There's many aquifers, and they have experts that look at this and the levels and make sure that we have enough water. That's the best answer I can give you.
It's complicated.
It's very complicated.
Did you have another question? No? Okay. If there are no more questions, then we're done. Thank you so much. And as they say in Chicago, vote early, vote often.